Who am I?
Who am I?
Who am I?
Who am I?
I am,
Who am I?
In psychology, our identity is typically our self-image, the way that we see ourselves, our mental model of who we are in relationship to other people, to the world.
The smallest social structure we think about was our family, and that's where we got all of our identity, was through our family. It was in the modern era, 1500s until about 1950, where we started to think about ourselves as individuals. But now we think about ourselves as just one of many selves. I'm a father, I'm a son.
I'm a friend, I'm an athlete.
I mean, I could tell you the answer. You know, I'm this person's daughter, and I'm so-and-so, and my name is...
I could define myself through all my relationships, but I find that dissatisfying.
I am fun-loving, goofball. Yeah.
I'm Judy.
The question is does what I do define who I am? It might.
I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a writer.
I don't know.
Why is it that some people, as they get older, begin to feel unclear about who they are? Very often, as we're growing up, we get lots of messages about ourselves, messages from our families. So perhaps a child grows up and that child is really, really emotional and colorful, and that's the personality that's natural for that child. But they grow up in a family where the rest of the family's more introverted, they're not really that outgoing. They would rather that child be more quiet and reserved. And so that child might develop messages about, let's say it's a girl, about herself, that, you know, my emotional life is too much. Perhaps gets other cultural messages like, girls shouldn't get angry, or that's not ladylike.
But we don't know how else to be. Our mothers told us who we are, our first boyfriends told us who we are. We don't know. And some of those things worked, so we thought, oh yeah, hey, I like hiking because we hiked, or whatever it is. And then later, I hate hiking. Yeah.
We try to figure out how to be so that we can fit in. And as we get older, very often we begin to feel like, you know, I'm not sure that this is really how I like to be. And where did I learn these messages?
We were preemies, and she weighed just under 5 pounds, and I weighed 5 pounds and like 2 ounces. And from that moment on, I was the fat twin. And at 5, I was doing sit-ups, and she wasn't.
My father would make assessments every once in a while. Say, oh, you put on a little weight here or there. What's that right there? Or getting a little gushy here, or, you know, those types of things.
Now, we may choose to reject what other people say about us verbally, but you can't necessarily go in and expunge your memory of what that person has said. So even if you disagree with it or you don't like it, it's still there in your memory.
And like what's beautiful to girls nowadays and how we can't live up to those standards. So it affects us a ton.
One of the things that's problematic is we don't always understand that the media presents images that are not completely real.
We can never measure up. We're never perfect enough to be what we're supposed to be in the world. And it's not like we've reached that level of perfection. We'll never reach that because it's not real.
I think they manipulate our thinking in ways that are destructive to society, and I have a very low opinion of the media.
It's created our whole, especially a woman's image. I think it's created in the mind of a man what a woman should look like or do or be.
That is a huge problem, though, because, you know, guys see all this stuff, and then they kind of look at who they're with, and they're kind of going, why can't she measure up? Well, she can't. There's no way. You know, it's physically impossible for you to measure up to that kind of stuff because it's not real.
In general, we all compare ourselves to other people from the time we're children because we want to figure out, am I fitting in? Am I doing things the way other people are doing them? So it's natural to compare. We have this tendency to only compare upwards. We tend to stop comparing ourselves to the larger population, and we only look at, oh, this one has more than I do, this one is more attractive than I am, this one is better than I am. Of course, without knowing these people very often and just assuming that they have it better than we do.
all kinds of things that I would compare to how they look, what they thought, what they said, what they did. I thought if I did those things, I would become more like them.
In comparing myself to others, I always found myself less than. And it was very disheartening, particularly in physical appearance. I believed I was ugly.
No matter how good you are, you can always find somebody who's better, whatever it is. But that works the other way too. No matter how bad you are, you can always find somebody who's worse.
The first step in really changing the messages, especially those negative messages about ourselves and our bodies, is to begin to reflect on it, on what we tell ourselves. Notice what you're telling yourself throughout the day. In fact, sometimes I have people keep a journal. And I say, anytime you have a thought and you become aware of it, and it's a negative thought about yourself, whether it's about your body or about something you did, jot it down. Start noticing what you're telling yourself throughout the day. The next step would be to ask yourself, where did these messages come from? Is it from family? Is it from my culture? Is it from a group I'm part of? Because I certainly want to know if these are messages that I developed a long time ago. They may not even be messages that I really would believe now. So if I'm looking at this message through the eyes of a compassionate person, how would it shift? What would be different? And just start writing them down. And then to shift is really to say, how would I act if I believed this new message? Acting as if, we call it, right? Starting to act as if. And notice how you'll, just by acting as if, start feeling differently, carrying yourself differently.
Who am I? Why was I placed here? What is the purpose of my life? And in searching more for the purpose than my identity, I found my identity in my purpose. I am happy to say that at the ripe old age of almost 65, I know who I am. I'm a woman on a mission. I know what that mission is, and I know the direction it takes, and there's a great sense of peace and satisfaction in knowing that.